Anxiety can feel awful. Your chest tightens, your stomach drops, your heart races, your breath shortens. Sometimes it builds into a full-blown panic attack. The very thing that is meant to protect you feels like it's attacking you. Most people think anxiety is their enemy, but anxiety isn't trying to ruin your life. It's your body's way of saying, I want to keep you safe. Here's the problem. It's a protective system that feels terrible in the process. It can make you feel restless, make your thoughts spin, and convince you that something is wrong even when you're not in danger. And I'm not just talking about the low-level stress everyone feels now and then. I'm talking about diagnosable anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, adjustment disorder with anxious mood, phobias, even parts of OCD. That's the territory that we're talking about here. At its core, anxiety is a signal. It's your body trying to push you into action to prevent something bad from happening. And even sometimes it's an indicator of growth that you're stepping outside your comfort zone. For example, you've got an important test tomorrow. The night before, you cannot relax. Your heart races, your thoughts won't stop. The anxiety urging you, study, prepare, protect yourself from the pain of failing. That is how anxiety tries to help, but it's not just about preventing events, it's also trying to protect you from the emotions that come afterward. Embarrassment, sadness, shame. Anxiety says, let me make you uncomfortable now so you won't feel devastated later. Anxiety is also trying to stop your most painful core beliefs from being triggered. Think about it this way. You're preparing for a work presentation and your anxiety skyrockets. It's not just about forgetting a slide, it's trying to protect you from the belief, if I mess this up, that means that I'm incompetent. Or you're waiting for a text back and your chest feels tight. Anxiety is guarding against the belief, if they don't respond, I must not be worth caring about. If you make a small mistake on a project and instantly feel restless, anxiety is trying to block the belief, if I fail at this, I'm a failure as a person. If you're meeting new people and your thoughts won't stop racing, anxiety is trying to prevent the belief, if I don't fit in, it means I'm unlikable. That's why anxiety feels so overwhelming. It isn't just about the event itself, the test, the text, the presentation. It's about guarding you from those deeper, painful beliefs about who you are. And when those beliefs feel like they're about to be confirmed, your anxiety intensifies. So the first tool to better manage your anxiety is something that is known as uncertainty exposure. When people feel anxious, the default strategy they turn to is reassurance. They tell themselves, everything's gonna be fine, nothing bad will happen. Or maybe they lean on someone else. Do you think I'll be okay? Do you think everything is gonna work out? And for a moment, it feels soothing. But that relief doesn't really last because your brain knows it isn't certain. You cannot guarantee outcomes, and when you feed your brain reassurance that doesn't line up with reality, it rejects the answer and starts spinning in circles again. That's why you end up stuck in rumination, replaying scenarios over and over and over again, desperately trying to predict what's coming. The better approach is to expose yourself to uncertainty, to tell yourself the honest answer instead of saying, this will definitely work out. You need to remind yourself, I don't know how this is gonna play out. I hope it goes well, but I cannot know for sure. Let me give you some examples. Think about waiting on medical results. This is one of the most anxiety-provoking situations people face. You might find yourself checking the patient portal every 10 minutes or asking a loved one to reassure you that it's nothing serious, but you can't know until the results are in. And just telling yourself it's definitely fine won't work, because deep down you know that it isn't guaranteed. The practice here is to remind yourself, I don't know what the results will say. Hopefully everything is okay, but until I get the actual call, I cannot know. And it's okay not to know. Or take relationships. Let's say you send a text to someone you care about and they don't reply for a couple of hours. Instantly, your mind jumps to the worst case scenarios. They're mad at me. They don't care about me. Something is wrong. Anxiety urges you to grab for certainty by reading the last message, asking friends, or double texting for reassurance. But the reality is, you don't know why they haven't responded. Maybe they're busy. Maybe their phone died. Maybe they're in a meeting. By leaning into uncertainty, you remind yourself, I don't know why they haven't responded. It could be a number of reasons. Until I hear from them, I don't know, and it's okay not to know. Workplace anxiety is another big one. Imagine you give a presentation and afterward you think, I'm gonna lose my job if I messed up. Your anxiety pushes you to seek reassurance, reanalyzing every word you said, replaying people's facial expressions, maybe even emailing your boss right after for feedback. But the fact is, you don't know what others thought. You don't know if anyone even noticed a tiny mistake you might have made. So instead of trying to erase that uncertainty, you can tell yourself, I don't know how people took it. It might have gone well. Either way, I did my best. That is an honest statement that ends the mental tug of war. Think of a sports game. You don't know who's going to win. You can analyze the stats, analyze the players, and make predictions, but you don't know until the final whistle blows. Saying, my team will definitely win is false reassurance. Saying, I don't know, we'll see, is honest, and your brain actually prefers the honest answer. So here's the practice. When you catch yourself in a loop of what-if questions, pause and respond with the reality of the situation. Instead of, what if I embarrass myself in this meeting? You say, I don't know if I'll embarrass myself. It's possible. Hopefully not, but I don't know. It feels uncomfortable at first because the brain craves certainty like oxygen. But the more you expose yourself to uncertainty, the more your brain learns to tolerate it, and over time it becomes less threatening and your anxiety decreases. Tool number 2 is leaning into unpleasant emotions. Anxiety often acts like a guard dog. Imagine it standing at the door of painful emotions. Embarrassment, grief, shame, rejection. It barks, growls, and blocks the way. Its entire job is to keep you from walking into those feelings. But here's the reality. Those emotions are part of life. You cannot avoid them forever. At some point, everyone feels embarrassed. Everyone experiences grief. Everyone knows what it's like to feel rejected or ashamed. Anxiety tries to protect you by keeping those emotions away, but in doing so, it traps you in constant tension. Think of what happens when you try to avoid them. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. The harder you press, the more force it builds, and eventually it bursts back up with even more intensity. Emotions are the same way. The more you fight them, the more exhausting it becomes, and the more likely they are to explode later in a way that feels out of control. So what do we do instead? We practice acceptance. Not enjoyment. Nobody likes embarrassment, shame, or grief, but acceptance. You can tell yourself, do I enjoy feeling embarrassed? No. But can I accept that embarrassment is part of life? Yes. That simple yes gives your brain permission to relax. It signals to your anxiety that you're not in danger of being destroyed by embarrassment or sadness or grief. And once you show your brain that you're willing to allow those emotions, anxiety no longer has to stand guard at the door barking as if your survival depends on avoiding them. Let's look at some real life situations. Say you fear embarrassment. You're about to give a presentation at work and your anxiety kicks in. What if I stumble over my words? What if people laugh at me? Anxiety wants to protect you from embarrassment by making you avoid the situation altogether. But here's the thing. Embarrassment is survivable, and you can use an acceptance statement that sounds like this. I don't like the idea of stumbling, but I can accept that I might stumble, and if I do, I'll survive it. Or take rejection in relationships. Maybe you hesitate to ask someone out or even express how you feel because anxiety says if you put yourself out there and they reject you, you won't handle it, so it makes you overthink, delay, or avoid. But rejection is part of being human, so this is how you can practice acceptance. I don't enjoy rejection, it's a painful feeling, but I can accept that I might feel rejected. Grief is another powerful one. Nobody wants to think about losing the people they love. So anxiety makes you hypervigilant, constantly scanning for signs of illnesses in loved ones, worrying when they don't pick up the phone right away, checking on them more than you need to. Anxiety believes if it can catch danger early enough, maybe it can protect you from feeling grief. But grief is inevitable in some form. So how can you practice acceptance here? You can say something like, I don't want to feel grief. It's painful, but I can accept that grief is part of love and part of being human. So what happens when you practice this? Anxiety doesn't need to keep patrolling at the door because you've opened it yourself. You've said, if these emotions come in, I won't fight them. I'll make space for them. And once that space exists, anxiety doesn't have to be on high alert all the time. Tool number 3, challenging negative core beliefs. Anxiety often spikes because of the way we overgeneralize. Sometimes something small happens, and instead of seeing it for what it is, we attach a sweeping meaning to it about who we are. Take a simple example. You spill coffee on yourself before a meeting. The automatic thought might be, I am such an idiot. But spilling coffee means one thing. You spilled coffee. That's it. It doesn't define your intelligence or your self-worth. The same thing happens in relationships. If someone breaks up with you, the automatic thought might be, I'm unlovable. But the reality is more specific. The person doesn't want to be with me. Painful? Yes, but not a verdict on your entire identity. At work, you might feel making a small mistake because you think that if you do, you're gonna have the belief that you can't do anything right, and that would be anxiety trying to protect you from the shame of feeling incompetent. But the more accurate statement is, I made a mistake in this report, and one mistake doesn't mean that I'm incompetent, it just means that I made a mistake. Or in social situations, you tell a joke and nobody laughs. The thought pops in, people don't like me. But the reality is, the joke just wasn't good. It doesn't mean you're unlikable. These are examples of automatic thoughts tied to deeper core beliefs like I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, or I'm a failure. Anxiety shows up to guard you from those beliefs being triggered. So the practice is really to pause and ask yourself, what negative core belief is my anxiety trying to protect me from? And is that belief actually true? Most of the time, it isn't. A mistake is a mistake. A rejection is one person's choice. A failed test is a poor performance on that exam, not proof of being a failure as a human being. When you start naming events accurately instead of overgeneralizing them, anxiety loses much of its fuel. It doesn't have to fight so hard to protect you from core beliefs that no longer hold power over you. Tool number 4, body-based techniques. Anxiety doesn't just live in your thoughts, it also lives in your body. That tight chest, that racing heartbeat, the shallow breathing, the restlessness. Your body is the alarm system, and if the alarm is blaring, no amount of telling yourself to calm down is going to work. So the fastest way to calm down the mind is often to start with the body. One of my favorite techniques is something called the physiological sigh, which was studied and popularized by Dr. Andrew Huberman, who's a neuroscientist at Stanford. Here is how it works. You take one deep inhale through your nose, then a second quick inhale on top of it, and then you slowly exhale through your mouth, just like this. That double inhale followed by a long exhale activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your body that tells you that you're safe. Do it a few times and you'll often feel your heart rate drop and your muscles loosen. Another option is the 4-7-8 breathing technique. You breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds, you hold that breath for 7 seconds, and then you exhale slowly through your mouth for 8 seconds. This longer exhale signals safety to the brain and helps quiet your nervous system. If 7 seconds feels too long at first, shorten it. Then build up as you get more comfortable. You can also keep it simple. Just focus on making your exhale longer than your inhale. For example, breathe in for 4, out for 6. That alone shifts your body out of fight or flight mode and into a calmer state. But breathing is only one part of the equation. Anxiety pumps your body full of energy, adrenaline, cortisol, all of it designed to push you into action. If you don't release that energy, it builds up and you're left with jitterness, restlessness, and racing thoughts. That is why movement is so important. Run, walk, do cardio, lift weights, anything that gets your heart rate up. When you get your body moving, it helps you discharge that anxious energy. You don't always need a long workout. Even a brisk 10-minute walk around the block can change the way your body feels. And once the body feels lighter, the mind typically follows. Think about the times when you've been stuck in worry, then you finally got up and moved, maybe you went for a run or even just stretched, and suddenly your perspective completely changed. That's because you weren't just calming your mind, you were giving your body what it needed. So remember, anxiety isn't just a mental loop, it's also a physical state. By using your breath and your body, you can lower the intensity of that state and create space for your mind to settle. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and see you in the next one.